stormy seas. We were alone in the boundless expanse of the ocean, an endless canvas of deep indigo stretching to the horizon, where the sky kissed the sea in a haze of shimmering light. By day, the sun blazed overhead, its golden rays dancing on the water's surface, casting fleeting, prismatic sparkles that seemed to whisper secrets of the deep. The wind, a restless companion, sang through the air, its salty breath tugging at my hair and filling my lungs with the briny tang of the sea. By night, the moon hung like a silver lantern, its pale glow bathing the ocean in a dreamlike sheen, while a tapestry of stars glittered above, each pinprick of light a story untold, their cold brilliance mirrored in the glassy waves below. Sound traveled freely across the open water, unshackled by land or barrier. The whale's song, a haunting melody of low, rhythmic moans and ethereal trills, wove through the night, its cadence both soothing and ancient, lulling me to sleep on countless evenings as our small wooden boat rocked gently on the swells. The ocean's surface was a deceptive veil, hiding a world of mystery in its murky depths. I often lay awake, staring into the inky blackness below, wondering what creatures stirred in that shadowy abyss, their lives untouched by the concerns of men. What did they know of us, adrift in this desolate nowhere, a speck of life in the ocean's vast indifference? The thought sent a shiver through me. I had asked Ogleflow where we were heading. My voice was barely audible over the wind's soft howl. Everywhere and nowhere, he'd replied. Not long ago, that cryptic answer would have sparked irritation within me, but I was growing accustomed to his ways, accepting the enigmatic guide for what he was, a beacon in the chaos of my mind's journey. Destinations held no meaning for Ogleflow. His focus was the journey itself, the fleeting now that unfolded with each breath. The ocean seemed to mirror his philosophy, its endless waves were a testament to the present, each crest and trough a moment to be lived, not questioned. The next adventure began one starlit night as I lay on my back. The boat's deck cool and damp beneath me, my eyes tracing the constellations above. Their patterns felt both familiar and alien, and I wondered if they were real or mere projections of my mind, woven into this inner odyssey. The air was crisp, tinged with the sharp scent of salt and the faint earthy aroma of wet wood. The ocean's gentle lapping against the hull was a steady heartbeat, its rhythm broken only by the occasional cry of a distant seabird, its silhouette a fleeting shadow against the moon's glow. Ogleflow shook me gently, his touch warm despite the night's chill, and pointed ahead. His shimmering form appeared as a faint beacon in the darkness. "Look, young Fun," he said, his voice low but urgent. A wall of white loomed across the ocean, a fog so dense it seemed to swallow the world, its edges indistinct, like a living shroud. It rolled toward us with eerie silence, its tendrils curling over the water. The air grew colder, heavier with each passing moment. "Take down your bag of tricks, young Fun," Ogleflow instructed, his eyes scanning the fog, his usual calm tinged with a rare intensity. I scrambled to my feet. The deck was slick under my boots, and untied the bag of tricks we'd rigged as a sail, its cloth worn but sturdy. I rolled it quickly, the material rustling softly, and slung it across my back, its weight a familiar comfort against my growing unease. We drifted into the fog, the world dissolved into a grey, suffocating void where sound and sight were smothered. The air was cold and clammy, clinging to my skin like a second layer, each breath tasting of salt and mist. An eerie silence enveloped us, broken only by the faint creak of our boat's timbers and the soft slap of waves against the hull. Their rhythm now muted, as if the ocean itself held its breath. "I don't like this," I whispered, my voice swallowed by the fog, my heart thudding in the oppressive quiet. "Focus, young Fun. We are not alone here," Ogleflow said. He was preparing for something. His movements were deliberate as he gathered our meager coil of rope, its fibers frayed but still strong, and curled it at his feet on the deck. With practiced ease, he fashioned a lasso at one end, his hands steady despite the boat's gentle sway, and stood poised like a hunter awaiting his prey. His eyes scanning the fog with an intensity that set my nerves on edge. The deck was slick with condensation, the air heavy with the scent of wet wood and the faint metallic tang of impending danger. My eyes darted left and right, straining to pierce the fog's veil, but I could see nothing beyond the boat's edge, the world reduced to a grey, formless haze. I listened intently, my ears straining for any sound, but only the rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull reached me, each slap a reminder of our isolation. The fog seemed alive, its tendrils curling around us, whispering secrets I couldn't decipher. The air grew colder, denser with each passing moment. "Stand next to me, young Fun," Ogleflow shouted, his voice cutting through the silence, sharp and commanding. Before I could move, a massive black shape erupted from the fog, a monstrous silhouette that struck our boat with a deafening crack, splintering the wood like kindling. The impact threw me forward, my hands scrabbling for purchase on the slick deck as the boat shattered beneath us, the icy water rushing up to meet me. Ogleflow grabbed me, his grip unyielding, and hurled his lasso into the fog, the rope snapping taut as we swung into the air, the world turned to a chaotic blur of mist and motion. "Hold on tight, young Fun," he shouted, his voice a beacon in the chaos, the wind howling around us. I clung to Ogleflow, my arms wrapped tightly around his waist, his shimmering form a faint glow in the fog, as we swung back and forth, the rope creaking under our weight. We smashed into the side of a massive black mass, the impact jarred my bones, then swung back through the air, ocean spray drenching me with salty water that stung my eyes and filled my mouth with its bitter tang. The fog was a suffocating shroud, the air thick with the scent of salt and the acrid bite of fear, my heart pounding as I fought to hold on, my fingers digging into Ogleflow's form. I had no idea what was happening, my mind a whirlwind of panic. The world reduced to the rope's creak, the spray's sting, and the desperate need to survive. As Ogleflow climbed the rope, hand over hand, the ocean fell away beneath us, its dark waves glinting faintly in the fog's dim glow. I realized we were scaling the side of a ship. Its hull towered above us, the wood was damp and scarred, its surface slick with algae and barnacles. Painted in jagged white letters was its name, the Black Rat, a fitting moniker for a vessel that seemed to groan under its own weight, its timbers creaking ominously as it cut through the waves at full sail. Coughing and spluttering, my lungs burning from the salt water, we climbed over the side rail and collapsed onto the deck. The wood was slick and uneven beneath us, the air heavy with the scent of tar and rotting fish. I tried to rub the salt from my eyes, but it only intensified the burning. My vision blurred, I struggled to my feet, staggering across the deck like a drunken sailor. The fog clung to the ship, a dense grey curtain that muffled sound and obscured sight. The deck rocked with each wave, the ship's timbers groaned as if in pain. I extended my hands, feeling my way forward, my fingers brushing against rough wood and coiled ropes, the air thick with the scent of damp canvas and the faint sour tang of unwashed bodies. My fingers found a barrel, its surface was slick with condensation. I lifted the lid, releasing a sweet, damp scent. Fresh water, a miracle in this forsaken place. Without hesitation, I clambered up the side, my boots slipping on the wet wood, and plunged my face into the cool liquid, the relief instantaneous and overwhelming, like a balm to my burning eyes. I cleared the salt from my eyes and gulped down several mouthfuls. The water, crisp and pure, washed away the ocean's bitter residue. Flicking my wet hair back, I looked around for Ogleflow. The fog still thick, the deck a shadowy maze of barrels and ropes. "Ogleflow, there's water here," I whispered, my voice hoarse, swallowed by the fog's oppressive silence. I rubbed my eyes again, straining to see, but the fog limited my vision to a mere 4 or 5 feet. The world was a grey, indistinct haze. "Ogleflow," I whispered again, my heart quickening. A tall figure emerged from the fog, his silhouette menacing, a cutlass gleaming in his hand, its blade catching the faint light. He glared at me, his presence felt like a cold weight. I froze, my mouth agape, my legs trembling as I stared back. He was a hard-looking man, his skin weathered like old leather, etched with the scars of a brutal life. His piercing blue eyes burned with suspicion, framed by black curly hair that fell to his shoulders, streaked with grey. A short beard, laced with a faint white line, clung to his jaw, and a jagged scar ran across his face, from his left temple, over the bridge of his nose, to the bottom of his right jaw, a testament to battles fought and survived. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, its edges frayed, and a long coat that reached his ankles, its dark fabric stained and tattered. His leather boots, scuffed and salt-crusted, creaked with each step, and a thick leather belt cinched his waist, a dagger's hilt glinting at his side. The air around him carried the scent of tobacco and sweat. He pressed the point of his cutlass against my throat, the cold steel bit into my skin, forcing me back against the barrel, its wood creaking under my weight. "Who might ye be?" he snarled, his voice rough as gravel, each word a shard of glass, tempered by years of barking orders over the roar of the sea. "Finn, sir," I said frantically, my voice trembling, the fog's chill seeping into my bones. "Why ye be aboard my ship? Ye a stowaway?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing, the cutlass's pressure unrelenting. "You sank our boat," I blurted, then corrected myself, not wanting to betray Ogleflow. "My boat. You sank my boat." The lie felt heavy, the fog's silence seemed to amplify my guilt. "What you be doing out here in the middle of the ocean all alone? You be a pirate?" he asked. His voice was laced with suspicion, the air thick with impending violence. Before I could answer, the fog began to thin, revealing a group of odd-looking animals standing upright like men, their forms grotesque in the dim light. There was a dog, a cat, a monkey, and 6 rats, each bearing scars that spoke of a harsh existence. Their fur was matted, unkempt. Their eyes sparkled with wary intelligence. The dog wore an eye patch over his right eye, his left hind leg a crude wooden peg, its surface pitted and worn. The cat had a hook in place of a paw at the end of its left front leg, its metal gleaming dully. The monkey was missing one ear and half its tail. Its movements were twitchy and nervous. The rats, a motley crew, lacked assorted toes, tails, and noses, their small bodies hunched and scarred. "Answer, boy. Ye be pirate or no?" he demanded again, his cutlass pressing harder as the fog's retreat revealed the ship's decayed grandeur. I looked at him and his crew of misfits, their eyes boring into me, and decided honesty might be my death. "Yes, I'm a pirate," I said squeamishly, my voice barely audible, the deck's sway a reminder of my precarious situation. "Is ye heart black as coal? Are ye motherless and have no love for the world?" he asked forcefully, his face twisting with his snarl. "Black as coal. Motherless, yes," I replied nervously, the lie a bitter taste on my tongue. He withdrew his cutlass. The sudden release shocked me. I swallowed hard, my throat aching from the blade's pressure. The deck's slick surface threatened to betray my trembling legs. The fog cleared completely, revealing the ship in its entirety, a tired ancient vessel that seemed to groan with each wave, its timbers dark and rotting, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and mildew. The Black Rat had 4 decks, poop deck, quarterdeck, main deck, and forecastle, each scarred and weathered, their surfaces slick with spray and grime. 3 masts, fore, main, and mizzen, towered above, their sails fully deployed but tattered, riddled with rips and stains, flapping weakly in the wind. The ropes were threadbare, fraying at the edges, straining under the sail's weight, their creaks a constant lament. The hull was a patchwork of damp, rotting wood, pockmarked with holes from cannon fire, its planks swollen and splintered, the sea's relentless assault evident in every crevice. How this ship remained afloat was a mystery. Its timbers groaned as it barreled through the waves, the deck rocking and rolling, the air heavy with the scent of salt and decay. The pirate grabbed my arm, his grip bruising, and yanked me to my feet, the deck lurching beneath me, the sea's rhythm a relentless pulse. I was disappointed, thought the days of being manhandled were behind me, especially after Ogleflow declared me a man. Apparently, my newfound status meant little here. The realization was a bitter sting in the ship's grim atmosphere. "Let me introduce you to me crew," he said, his voice a low growl as he guided me across the uneven deck. "I be Captain Cutlass." "Tow the line," he shouted, his voice echoing over the deck, cutting through the wind's howl as the sails flapped above like tattered banners. The crew snapped into formation, their movements jerky but practiced, lining up on the main deck, their scarred forms a grotesque tableau against the ship's decaying backdrop. He introduced them one by one, his voice carrying a strange pride. The dog was first, his fur matted and grey, his eye patch askew. "This be me first mate, Bones. I founds him discarded with a broken leg and a missing eye. Ain't that so, shipmate?" "Ah," Bones growled, the sound more canine than pirate, his wooden leg thumping on the deck, the air around him tinged with the scent of wet, musky fur. Next was the cat, his sleek black coat marred by scars, his hook gleaming menacingly. "This be me second mate, Hook. You used to be ship's cat on a mighty ship of the line until he got his paw caught in a rat trap. Now he ships with me, keeping these scurvy rats in line. Ain't that so, shipmate?" "Ah," Hook purred, his voice a soft menace, his eyes glinting with predatory cunning. Next, the monkey, his fur patchy, his movements twitchy. "This be ship's carpenter, Bobtail. He would dance and perform tricks in the most lavish markets until he was savaged by a wild animal and couldn't perform any more. Cast aside, lost and lonely, he found his way to me crew. Ain't that so, shipmate?" Bobtail whooped and gibbered, his voice a high-pitched chatter, his half-tail flicking nervously. "You not learnt to say ah?" Captain Cutlass gave him a stern look, his face twisting. Bobtail dropped his head in shame, his chatter silenced. I felt his embarrassment. "And these be me swabbies," Cutlass said, pointing to the 6 rats, their small bodies hunched, their eyes glinting with wary intelligence. "They just climbed aboard one day and never left." "What are their names?" I asked, curious despite my fear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, he said, his voice flat, the rats squeaking "ah" in unison, each tone slightly different, almost musical, their scarred forms a strange harmony against the ship's decay. "I takes ye on as me cabin boy and cook. What say ye?" Cutlass asked, his eyes boring into me, the crew's gazes heavy with expectation. I hesitated, then realized what they wanted. "Ah," I said, my voice weak but clear, the word foreign on my tongue. Cutlass slapped me on the back, the impact jarring, and shouted, "Welcome aboard, shipmate," his voice echoing over the deck as the sails flapping above like tattered ghosts. He turned to his crew, his glare sharp, and they dispersed, scrambling to look busy. Bones barked orders, his wooden leg thumping. Hook hissed at the rats, who scrubbed the deck with tiny brushes. Bobtail scampered up to the crow's nest, his chatter echoing faintly, the air heavy with the crew's chaotic energy, the ship's timbers groaning as it ploughed through the waves. Cutlass steered me up to the quarterdeck, his hand gentle but firm, explaining my duties, cooking meals, cleaning his clothes, tidying his cabin, each task a weight in the ship's grim atmosphere. I admitted I didn't know how to cook, my voice small, but he dismissed my concern, saying a book in the galley. A cookbook held all I needed. I wasn't pleased, but what choice did I have? In my heart, I knew why I was here. This ship, this crew, mirrored how I saw myself, a misfit, discarded, one storm away from breaking apart. The realization was a cold weight, the deck's sway a reminder of my perceived place, the air heavy with my sadness, the sails' tattered edges flapping like my own fraying hopes. Cutlass diverted my attention to the poop deck, his voice cutting through my thoughts. "This be me helmsman," he said. "Strange fellow, goes by the name of Ogleflow." Rage surged as I saw Ogleflow at the helm, his iridescent skin shimmering, his sailor's outfit absurdly pristine. A silly grin spread across his face as he saluted me as the wind ruffled his hair. The ship's decay seemed to mock my anger, the air thick with the scent of salt and my bitter resentment. As Cutlass guided me toward the galley, I glared at Ogleflow, my eyes burning with frustration, wanting him to feel my anger. We were supposed to be a team, but nothing had changed. I was still being pushed around while he reveled in the chaos. Cutlass pushed me into the galley, a cramped, filthy space that reeked of rancid grease and mold, the air thick with the stench of neglect. Pots and pans hung from the rafters, clanking with the ship's motion, their surfaces crusted with remnants of past meals. Bags of flour and salt lay torn open, their contents spilled across the worktops and floor, mingling with dust and grime. Empty jars, lidless and chipped, rolled with the ship's sway, their clatter a grating symphony. At the far end, a small oven glowed hot, its embers cast a faint hellish light. A bag of charcoal was slumped beside it. An open book lay on the worktop, its pages yellowed and stained, presumably the cookbook. "You be right at home here?" "There be no room for slackers on this ship," Cutlass said, leaving me alone. The door slamming shut, the sound echoing in the confined space, the ship's timbers groaning, as if in agreement. I stood, overwhelmed, wondering where to begin, the galley's filth a strange mirror to my inner turmoil. I started by collecting the jars, securing them in a crate to stop them rolling. I swept up the spilled flour and salt, the broom's bristles scraping, scratching against the uneven floor, sent clouds of dust into the air. While fetching fresh water from the main deck, I glared at Ogleflow. His serene smile infuriated me as he steered the ship, with the wind blowing through his hair, the sails flapping gently above him like my tattered dreams. The oven had a water tank, and I heated water to clean the pots, scrubbing until my hands were raw, the hot water stinging my cracked skin. I cursed Ogleflow, blaming him for my predicament, my anger a familiar crutch, the galley's heat a relentless companion, the air thick with steam, and my resentment. I was back to being an ungrateful child, whining and complaining, the realization a bitter sting in the ship's grim atmosphere. "I hate you, Ogleflow," I shouted, my voice echoing in the galley, the pots clanking in response. Two loud bangs came from above. Ogleflow stamping his feet, laughing at my outburst, the sound a mocking echo in the confined space, the air heavy with my frustration. But when I finished cleaning the galley, the pots gleaming, the worktops clear, a strange pride swelled in my chest, a sense of achievement I hadn't felt before. The galley, though still rough, was ordered, a small victory in the ship's decay, the air lighter with my effort. This was the first task I'd completed alone, without Ogleflow or the bag of tricks, just me, my hands, and my will. The realization was a quiet triumph, the galley's faint glow a testament to my effort, the ship's timbers creaking as if in acknowledgement. I carried that pride into the next task, cooking for the crew. I found a barrel of salt pork, its meat tough but edible, and another filled with potatoes, their skins speckled with dirt. A sack of cabbages leaned against a barrel, their leaves wilted but usable. I dragged a stool to the worktop, my boots scuffing the floor, and opened the cookbook with enthusiasm, its worn cover creaking in unison with the ship. To my dismay, it had only 2 pages, the text simple and stark. Page 1. To cook dinner, put everything in a pot of water and boil until soft. Page 2. To make biscuits, mix flour, salt, and water to a certain consistency and bake slowly. The brevity was almost comical. The galley's chaos a fitting backdrop, the air heavy with the scent of charcoal and my amusement. I stoked the oven with charcoal, the embers glowing red, and set a large pot on top, filling it with water. I tossed in chunks of pork, potatoes, and chopped cabbage, adding a pinch of salt, the ingredients splashing softly, the steam rising in fragrant clouds, the galley's heat a warm embrace. As the stew simmered, I mixed flour, water, and salt into a dough, kneading it until smooth and shaped biscuit-sized pieces onto a tray. I slid the tray into the oven, the heat washing over me, and stood back, a smile tugging at my lips, the air thick with the scent of baking biscuits and simmering stew. I was enjoying myself, the responsibility a surprising joy. My initial anger had faded, replaced by satisfaction as I saw results, my attitude shifting with each small success, the galley's glow a reflection of my growing confidence. This was my first true achievement, a milestone at 10 years old, the ship's decay a distant concern, the air light with my pride. Others might point to my past feats, running across a lava pit or rebuilding a boat, but those were driven by necessity or Ogleflow's guidance, aided by the bag of tricks. This was different, a task I'd tackled alone, its simplicity profound in the galley's rough embrace. A small room off the galley held a long wooden table, its surface scarred and polished, flanked by benches and a large chair at the head. The air was heavy with the scent of old wood and wax. A bell hung on the wall, a sign beside it read, "Strike 3 times for dinner." I set the table, 11 bowls, spoons and cups, knowing Ogleflow wouldn't join us. I filled a large bowl with steaming stew, placed a plate of golden biscuits beside it, and added a jug of water, stepping back to admire my work. The galley's faint glow, a warm backdrop. I struck the bell 3 times. The sound was sharp and clear, echoing through the ship, the timbers groaning in response. The door burst open, and Captain Cutlass strode in, his coat flapping, followed by Bones, Hook, and Bobtail, their scarred forms in a strange procession. I started to ask about the rats, then saw them already seated, napkins tied around their necks, their small eyes glinting with patience. The crew took their places, tying napkins with practiced ease, the room's dim light casting their scars in sharp relief, the air thick with the scent of stew and camaraderie. "Come ye, sit next to me," Cutlass said, his voice gruff but warm, gesturing to the seat at his right. The chair creaked as I sat. The table's surface felt cool beneath my hands. To my shock, they bowed their heads, and Cutlass offered a prayer of thanks, his voice low and reverent, the words a quiet accompaniment to the room's warmth, the air heavy with gratitude. He pulled the stew bowl toward him, ladling portions into each bowl as they were passed. The steam rose in fragrant clouds, the biscuits' golden crusts gleamed in the candlelight. I rose, circling the table to fill their cups with water. The jug was heavy in my hands, the crew's murmurs a soft undercurrent. As I sat, they ate with surprising civility. Their manners a stark contrast to my expectations, the room filled with hums and ahs of approval, the air light with their enjoyment. I tucked in. The stew was savory and warm, the biscuits crisp. A smile spread across my face. The galley's glow reflected my pride, the ship's timbers creaking in harmony. Watching them, I realized I'd misjudged them. These weren't true pirates, their scars not from battle but from rejection, discarded by a world that saw no value in them, much like the ship itself, its rotting hull a mirror to their brokenness. They were a band of brothers, bound by shared pain, their camaraderie a fragile light in the ship's decay, the air heavy with their unspoken bond. I felt a kinship with them, accepted for who I was, a misfit among misfits, the realization both comforting and bittersweet. The table's warmth, a quiet embrace. Would Cutlass have run me through if I hadn't claimed to be a pirate? I didn't know, but his care for his crew was clear, a love tempered by a deep sadness, as if something vital had been lost, the air thick with his unspoken grief. A sudden need to see Ogleflow pulled me from the table, and I excused myself, the crew's murmurs fading as I climbed to the poop deck, the night air sharp with salt and the scent of wet canvas. Ogleflow stood at the helm, proud and strong, his shimmering form catching the starlight, his smile warm as he met my gaze, the sails flapped above him like tattered dreams. "Is this ship going to sink?" I asked, my voice small, the deck's sway a reminder of its fragility, the air heavy with my fear. Ogleflow looked at me, his eyes saying I knew the answer, his silence a gentle prod, the wind's howl a distant chorus. "But why?" I pressed, the question a plea, the stars above a cold, indifferent witness to my despair. He pointed to the horizon where the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, the ocean's surface a molten mirror. "Why does the sun set, young Fun?" he asked, his voice soft, the air light with his wisdom. I thought for a moment, the deck's sway grounding me. "To mark the end of a day," I said, the words simple but true. "And do you mourn for the setting sun, young Fun?" he asked, his eyes twinkling, the air thick with anticipation. "No, I don't," I replied, the realization a spark in the night's chill. "Why not, young Fun?" he pressed, his smile widening, the sail's creaks a soft counterpoint. "Because I know it will rise again tomorrow," I said, the words a quiet triumph, the horizon's glow a beacon of hope. "You are wise beyond your years, young Fun," Ogleflow said with a chuckle, his laughter a warm melody, the air light with his approval. The words didn't ease my sadness, the thought of the crew's fate a heavy weight, the ship's decay a mirror to their fragility, the air thick with my uncertainty. Perhaps they'd be reborn, like the sun, or perhaps that was just wishful thinking. Ogleflow saw my unease and explained, his voice steady, cutting through the night's chill. Years ago, Cutlass's wife and son were swept overboard in a storm, his heart shattered by guilt and loss. The sea's cruelty a wound that never healed. He'd gathered this crew of strays, their shared pain a rotten foundation, like the ship itself, built on anger and sorrow, the air heavy with their collective grief, the sails' tattered edges a testament to their brokenness. "Is that why I'm here?" I asked, my voice barely audible, the deck's sway a reminder of my own perceived flaws, the air thick with my realization. "You are wise beyond your years, young Fun," he said again, his smile warm, the ship's timbers groaned as if in agreement. I returned to the dining room, the air warm with the scent of stew and wax, and found the crew asleep at the table, their heads resting on the scarred wood. Some snoring, others wheezing. The racket a strange harmony, the candlelight casting their scarred forms in soft relief. I cleared the table quietly, the bowls clinking softly, and returned to the galley, washing the dishes and cleaning the oven in silence, my mind thick with my thoughts. It was clear I had much to learn, my earlier anger at Ogleflow a reminder of my immaturity. The galley's faint glow a quiet reprimand. When he'd said I'd become a man after crossing the lava pit, I'd thought it meant he'd solve my problems, clear my path. I was wrong. Becoming a man was a beginning, a call to take responsibility for my actions, thoughts, and emotions, to find solutions without blame, to stand firm when chaos reigned. The realization a quiet relief in the galley's warmth. As a 10-year-old, these were feelings more than thoughts, but now, as an adult, I can name them. I knew tomorrow would be tumultuous. My heart felt heavy for the crew, and the atmosphere was thick with pending doom. Exhausted by thought and emotion, I piled empty sacks in the galley's corner, their burlap rough but comforting, and lay down, the ship's gentle sway lulling me to sleep, the air heavy with the scent of charcoal. I woke at daybreak to sounds of panic, a cacophony of shouts and clattering from above. The air was filled with sounds of urgency. The galley's faint light was swallowed by the dawn's grey haze. I tried to stand, but the ship's violent lurch threw me back onto the sacks, the pots and pans clanking wildly, their racket a chaotic symphony. Items not secured slid across the floor, jars shattering, the air heavy with the scent of spilled flour and broken glass. The ship rose and fell, leaning sharply, its timbers groaning as if in agony, the deck's sway a relentless assault. I staggered to the quarterdeck, clutching the rail. The wood was slick with spray, the air icy and sharp with the scent of salt and ozone. The ship was surrounded by towering waves, their crests frothing white, rolling the vessel like a toy. The wind was a howling beast that tore at my clothes, ocean spray stinging my face like needles. A thunderclap boomed behind me, its resonance shaking the deck, and I ran to the poop deck, my boots slipping, the air thick with the storm's fury. My eyes widened, my jaw dropping as I saw what pursued us. A monstrous wall of black clouds, their edges glowing blue and red as lightning streaked through, illuminating the chaos within. The ocean rose to meet them, merging into a single apocalyptic mass. Its roar was a deafening cacophony, the air heavy with the scent of rain and electricity, the ship's timbers trembling under the storm's oppressive weight. Ogleflow stood at the helm, his shimmering form resolute, fighting to steer the ship, his hands gripping the wheel as it bucked against him, the wind howling through the tattered sails. The crew was a circus of chaos. Captain Cutlass on the quarterdeck, hurling vengeful curses at the storm, his cutlass raised like a lightning rod, bones racing up and down, barking frantically, his wooden leg slipping, hook hissing and slashing at anyone near, his hook gleaming, bobtail swinging in the rigging, screaming, his half-tail flailing, the 6 rats struggling to lower a lifeboat, their efforts futile against the waves. The air was thick with their panic. For a moment, silence fell, a realization hitting me like a wave. Was this who I thought I was, a helpless misfit, floundering in crisis, belonging to this doomed crew? The thought was a cold weight, the storm's roar a mirror to my inner doubts. Then I looked at Ogleflow, battling the wheel, and saw our journey reflected. He was steering me through my own chaos, fighting to guide me to safety, the ship's decay a symbol of my fears. As the storm enveloped us, the sails billowed and strained, the rigging creaking under the wind's assault, the rain falling in sheets, each drop a stinging rebuke. The air was thick with the scent of wet canvas and ozone. The crew descended into chaos, their shouts drowned by the thunder, the ship's timbers moaned as if pleading for mercy, the decks sway a relentless torment. This wasn't me, not anymore, I thought. The realization a spark in the storm's fury, the airlight with my resolve. I turned to Ogleflow, my voice steady despite the chaos. "What do you want me to do?" I shouted, the words a declaration, the wind tearing at my voice. "Stay by my side, young Fun. The course is set. All we can do is navigate it as best we can," he replied, his voice a beacon, his eyes steady, the wheel bucking in his grasp. The storm was terrifying. Thunder shook the deck, lightning illuminating the chaos. Rain and wind were a relentless force, making me feel small and insignificant. I was afraid. Then I looked at Ogleflow, fighting with all his might as the ship's wheel tried to escape his grasp, and I wondered whether my father was such a man who would have fought with all his might to save his crew. I like to think he was. A cracking sound pierced the chaos, followed by a loud snap as the main mast splintered, crashing over the side, held in place only by tangled rigging, dragging in the water, making the ship lurch dangerously to one side. The air was filled with splintered wood and salty water. "Young Fun, take the knife from my belt. You have to cut the mast free," Ogleflow shouted, his voice cutting through the storm, the wheel bucking in his hands, the sails flapping like tattered ghosts. Without hesitation, I grabbed the knife. Its hilt was cold and slick, and fought my way to the main deck. Waves crashed across, threatening to sweep me overboard, the water icy and relentless. I clung to ropes and rails, my boots slipping on the wet deck. I reached the rigging, its fibers were frayed and tangled, gripping the fallen mast like a lifeline. The deck's sway was a constant threat. I hacked at the ropes, each cut felt like a small victory, the fibers snapping free. Halfway through, I saw Bobtail clinging to the mast as his small form was battered by the waves. He fought hard against the raging sea, his screams lost in the storm's watery, roaring, cruel chorus. I paused, my heart twisting, but the rigging gave way. The mast slipped into the dark waves, taking Bobtail with it, his final scream swallowed by the ocean's roar. My heart, heavy with guilt, sank into my stomach. I looked around. No sign of Bones, Hook, or the rats, likely swept away, their absence a hollow ache. The storm's fury was a relentless judge, the atmosphere thick with destruction and loss. On the quarterdeck, Cutlass stood, sword raised, cursing the storm with a primal rage, his scar vivid in the lightning's flash, his pain a palpable force. The deck's sway was a cruel mirror to his torment, the air heavy with his despair. A lightning bolt struck him, a white-hot streak that lit the deck, and he fell. His lifeless body rolled with the ship's motion. I watched as his body was washed overboard by a wave, the water claiming him as its own. In the clouds above, for a brief moment, I swore I saw a grinning face, malevolent and fleeting, Ruthless's shadow in the storm. I fought my way back to Ogleflow, the deck lurching, the rain stinging, the ship's timbers groaning as if in surrender. I stood beside him, the wheel bucking in his hands, the storm's fury a relentless assault, unwavering, unforgiving. The sails, tattered and torn, flapped like broken wings. "Look there ahead, young Fun, our destination," Ogleflow shouted. A swirling mass of water loomed ahead, a whirlpool, its mouth a churning abyss. Its roar drowned the storm's vicious assault. The water's surface was a chaotic spiral, a sight no man had seen before. The ship's sway a final warning. Its time had come. I wanted to protest, to beg for another way, but I knew the answer. There was no other way. The course was set. I closed my eyes, gripping the handrail with all my strength, my knuckles white, my heart pounding, the air filled with my fear and acceptance. The ship's timbers splintered as we were sucked into the whirlpool, the world fracturing. My scream lost in the darkness that swallowed everything, a void as deep as my soul, pulling me into its silent, endless embrace.